Gun halves in NRL Fantasy. What a tremendously important position it is. Headlined by Nathan Cleary and Nico Hynes, both much cheaper than they were to begin last year. If we're looking at what the price would have been this year compared to last, it should be around 905k for Cleary. And then it was $1 million last year. And then with Nico Hynes at 825, he'd be sitting closer to the 850 mark with that average score, just with the increase in buying power this year, which is helpful. But they were both $1 million last year, and some teams started with both. So the question is going to be, could you do the same thing this year? And I just literally was about to click record on this video, and then a quote comes out from Nico Hynes, and we'll just mention this now so we can sit with it before we get into all the other guys in the group. But we do have Jerome Hughes is coming up next. We have Jaden Campbell. It's going to be a fun one. Daly Cherry Evans, Matt Burton. We have Jamal Fogarty, Lockie Galvin, Ben Hunt, Mitch Moses, and Dylan Brown in this video. And then everything under that will be in the value section between that and about 450. Chad Townsend at the bottom of that. And then we'll go under that with some of the cheaper guys in the half position, which is going to be good fun as well. So let's kick it off with that quote from Nico Hynes, which is so nice to hear. It's probably the happiest I've ever been in my life and the most ready I've been for a game of footy. Now that's exciting. And that's after I did all this analysis. So we'll stick with that. And as much as we know that feeling great is a big portion of being able to do well in life and well in your chosen craft or sport, whatever it is. So that's massive news coming into this season and probably murkies the waters a little bit more. And on a Supercoach side, if he is to have the 6 on his back this year, he'll be dual half and 5/8 for Supercoach as well. So that's very, very interesting. But let's kick it off with our superstar, Nathan Cleary. Consistency is 9. The confidence is 10. So I had Isaiah Yeo at 10 and 10. So that shows you what I think of Mr. Isaiah this year. But this one was a slow year for Nath. He's been priced up to about a 66 average with the injuries that he did comp. And so that 66 average, you're looking at a 72.8 in 2023. And he has been over 70 now 3 times, one of them being a 91 average season. So with Nath, he has the highest upside in the game, considering he has 1300s and the next best is 7 across the careers of guys that are available right now. It shows that he has all the class and he has the biggest upside in the game, which is why I've got him there as an 80% 3-game upside, because we know he has that, and there's obviously some downside risk in terms of injuries and is he fit for round 1? Is he ready to go? We know he can come straight back into the team and absolutely dominate. He also played the majority of that grand final against the Broncos with a torn MCL. So we know he can play a little bit busted, but if surgery's all good and he comes back fit and firing for round 1, it's going to be very hard to hold him out of your sides. I'm expecting between a 64 and a 69 average to kick things off, and that would sit him somewhere between an 870 price and a bit over 900 if he manages to hit somewhere near that 70 mark, and we definitely know he can do it. There's a little bit of worry on him starting a little bit slow, which he has done the last 2 years. He had 51 to kick things off, and then went at 30 odd into that 75 last year, before he got injured. Similar to Payne Haas getting injured early last year, but Haas we've seen in the beginning of seasons absolutely dominate, and that's where you could look at Cleary and go, "Ooh, can I captain him in the first few confidently?" Although if he's there in Vegas, I expect a really nice showing from Cleary as well. So there's lots to think about, but he has the best role in the game. He's now without Luai and likely to be with a Blaze Talangi or a Jack Cole, which means he is by far the most dominant guy. Luai would kick a decent amount in game, which just means most of that from what Luai was providing is going to go to Nathan Cleary as well. So there's a little bit of a uptick just in base stats, you'd imagine, from Cleary without Jerome Luai this year. The big thing here is that when he got over 70 minutes last year, he did average the 70. So even that, if he was to play, if you're buying him, you're hoping for full games, 70 plus minute games, you're going to expect a little bit of a bump on his average and get him close to that 70 mark. So, my 5-round expectation is fairly conservative, but that's putting into perspective that there is a chance there's a 40 odd or a 50 in there with a low game or so. We all started with him last year, well, most anyway, at $1 million last year, and he had the 75.9 average, coming into that season. So now that he's a lot cheaper, 9 to 10 points cheaper than what we saw from him last year, without Luai next to him, it's going to be very, very difficult to hold him out of your sides. The injuries are the worry, obviously, and he is racing the clock to play round 1, but the upside's unmatched. There's more on his back than ever, but the team's still good, so it does only mean good things. The question is, do you pick him and captain a Haas, a Yo, or something like that, who are likely to have a bit more consistency and safety, which is why I've got him at that 9 there? Or do you just go all in with Cleary in Vegas and expect a big score? And that's the big thing. If you go for like an Isaiah Yo, you're probably likely to hit a 60-odd in that first game. Cleary could be 50, but he could be 95 and get you off to an absolute flyer. So are you going to look to start with Nathan Cleary in round 1? Let me know in the comments what you're planning to do with that. Guys, make sure you do subscribe and you do hit follow on podcasts as well. The podcast will come out 3 to 4 hours before the YouTube channel video each and every time until round 1. So look forward to checking them out. It's growing nicely, which is what I've been trying to do, and the goal I've got up written here on the side here to improve the podcast this year, and the quality's great, so keep it going. Thank you very much. Now, Nicho Hynes, we've got him at a 9 consistency and a 9 confidence. Price reaction is a lot better than last year, that's for sure. And his role reaction is not as good, but he's in a really, really good team. So that's a very positive sign. With AFB coming over as well, you doubt that they get any worse. Kale Lero gets another year older, and they're not too old in certain positions, with Trindle improving last year as well. And so Trindle, Hynes, was just doing some analysis on both of those guys, and they're very, very hard to pick between the both of them. So with Nicho, he has done this before and way better. He has a 3-game upside of 70% there. I do think you can regret not owning both him and Cleary, but I'm a little bit more confident on Nath at this point of the preseason, just mainly because who he's got next to him in Trindle is going to take some of the shine off what Hynes can do. If you're looking at Panthers and Sharks, they're both going to be pretty close to top 4 teams, but Cleary's going to have a lot of the run of the show, whereas Hynes is going to have to split a little bit of that. So is there going to be enough of the attacking side for Hynes to continue to dominate at the highest level? I personally have him between 57 and 62 right now. I think he's, for the beginning of the season, could be about on par, but we have seen Nicho Hynes perform better than Nathan Cleary the last 2 years at the beginning. Yeah, he was the guy that if you started with Hynes at the $1 million instead of Cleary last year, you performed better, because most people tried to grab Hynes after Cleary went down, and he just scored better from ball 1. But with Nicho, he had an average of 74 and an average of 69 in 2023 and 2022, which are absolutely terrific numbers there. 8 points better and 13 points better than what he's priced at this year, which is incredible. The question's going to be, how much does Trindle affect him? Or was it more the injuries that he sustained last year, that when he did come back, Trindle was able to blossom into more of an important role? And as it was closer to finals, it was like, well, Nicho's a little bit busted. Let's get him on the park so he's a bit of a threat. But we want to have Trindle take over a little bit more. And there was the odd game where Trindle kicked goals, and then Hynes was back in the last couple of rounds and kicked goals again. So these are all the things to consider. And obviously him saying that he's much happier than he has been ever in his life is a massive part of it. As I said, Hynes didn't look the same. From round 12 was when it started, where he didn't exceed 57 points from there, and Trindle had to take over. That's what the team decided as a whole, that Trindle was going to be more of the main guy during that time. Last year at a 64 average, if you take out the Panthers injury game, where it seems like he probably shouldn't have played. He had that calf injury at that time. He has a 65 average with Trindle over his career, which is nice. It's 4 points of value. But the numbers in 2024 aren't very nice. Well, they're pretty good. But without Trindle, I'm going to say pretty good. They're pretty good compared to anyone else in the game, basically. 88 without Trindle and 57.5. So if it's 57.5, he's going to lose some cash, which is the problem. That's why it's a bit gross. Hynes' kick meters and involvement fell away at the back end of the year, but it looks like it was out of necessity because Trindle was improving and they needed for them to get that way, and necessity out of him being injured, basically. Trindle grew last year, so I do expect some sharing of the responsibility, as I said, and the Sharks are awesome in attack, so the attack's still going to be there. I just find it a little bit harder for him to expect some ceiling scores for him, whereas the ceiling scores for Cleary are you're going to be every sort of 3 to 4 weeks if he's fit and firing, and the Panthers are doing pretty well, which I still do expect with IPAP and these kind of guys coming over. Hynes still has awesome base stats. He really increased his tackle numbers last year. He's still running the footy plenty, and if he can, share the kicking in general play, get the goals, get the odd try that he didn't really have last year, and plenty of try assists, then he can still average in that mid-60s and be awesome, or get closer to the high 60s. And we also have the factor that if Trindle was to miss some games, then Hynes would go back into that super dominant role. Both these guys are very interesting. I have my hat on Nathan Cleary to kick things off to start the year, but I do think both of these guys could be a really, really good selection in your sides. So keep that in mind this year. Jerome Hughes at 825k. The price reaction for him a little bit high, personally. The role's beautiful, but the left side is improving with Howarth, with Bloor, and he's coming into his second year, and Munster getting surgery, who we are going to speak about him in the in the value video for the halves, which will be the next one that comes out following this. The consistency for Hughes was a 9. Confidence this year is an 8, and he's done this before once, I should say. Yes, once, where he has gone the 60 as well in 2021. 3-game upside of 10%. I can't see it going crazy, especially with the buy in round 2, and the 50% downside risk, just because he's only done it the once before. So for me, I don't think you'll regret not owning 54 to 59. I still expect, but I doubt there's much upside on that 60. For Hughesy, he clearly had to step up last season with Munster, in his own words, on one leg. He was last season, so he decided to turn back the clock to 2021, where he was incredible and people were looking at him as the Dally M half of the year and even the Dally M player of the year. And this year was no different. He was absolutely spectacular in 2024, and I absolutely enjoyed owning him last year. He was one of my best players to own, so I absolutely have a soft spot for him, but I just don't expect it again, and the numbers back that up. I do expect a great season, but I don't think he can play any better, and there's a decent chance that he goes down to what he has had in previous years. And for context, in 2023 and 2022, he went 52 and a 47 average. So be very, very hard pressed to see him go 60 again, even though he was absolutely incredible. Expect the role to be shared a little bit more again with Munster feeling better. He knew all season, or pre-season coming into it, that Munster wasn't in the best shape, and therefore he had to step up a little bit. So plenty of games, a bunch of games without Munster, with Wishart, who was easily more of a running guy and actually helped Hughes at times back through the middle with try assists and tries himself. So yeah, it'll be interesting for Hughes, but not one I want to target at the beginning of the year. One of those we will look at through Origin most likely again. Jaden Campbell, he's an interesting player this year. He was spectacular last year. He ended up with a 54 average after starting, fullback, bench, injuries. There's so much going on. He still managed to hit a 54 average, which absolutely shows his ability and class. He's got the wing fullback dual, and he does have a buy in round 1. So is he a guy that you could potentially use as a looper? I think personally he's an interesting loop candidate in round 1 if the situation allows. Gets you through that round 1, and then you can have him for a long time. And that's very similar to what I'm going to say about guys like Brimson and Keeney. Potentially Bo Fermor, like I mentioned as well. These types of guns that are 50 plus upside that could potentially get you through that round 1 with a looper and then have them for a long time. But with the roll reaction, if he actually does get the 7 and what's been said of him and Brimson in the halves with Foreign not ready or playing 14 or whatever it's going to be for Foreign, if that's the case, he will kick more, bringing some more consistency, which would be good. And hopefully he's got through a bunch of those injuries that he's had. That knee was strapped within an inch of its life, and you need that to be in a better spot. And if it is, and if he can be super comfortable in his movement, he is a spectacular running footballer. And he had some good moments with the ball in kicking kicking the footy as well in general play with putting on assists and and getting the odd force drop out. And then his bullet passes to that left wing were awesome as well. So there's plenty of good stuff here. I do think the 3-game upside is a little bit low unless he does get that 7. And obviously with the bye round 1, you can be a little bit cooked in that first few rounds if it doesn't pay off perfectly. You do need to probably take a 40 or 50 off your 18th, 19th, 20th man as a looping guy for it to sort of work out and have some upside with then him hitting the ground running from ball 1. I don't know if you could regret not owning. I just think he's going to be a fun pick for sure, and you can muck around with your starting team to suit someone like Campbell, and you don't have to be eyes shut to all of the Titans guys for sure. So with him at 7, I have him at a 5-round expectation of 54 to 59 and a 50 to 55 at 6. So play with that what you wish. But let's go through some stats. And he was a super fun pick last year. He did average 57.5 at 6, which is helpful. So there's 3.5 points of value on that. There is some talk that he could play halfback, which is music to my ears, given he only averaged 168 kick meters. So next to Brimson, that could be absolutely golden if it decides to go with that one. Plenty of knee problems, which is the concern. Similar injuries and some issues like Brimson does. But the attacking stats could definitely be improved. He had a 0.3 try scoring rate, which is fine. Assists were at 1, which is a decent number. And the line breaks are 0.2, which isn't crazy at all. And you saw an incredible step at one point. You're like, oh, maybe he does have something. And that was off his bad knee. So he still has some room to grow in some of those areas. And if the Titans can improve a little bit with their forward additions in RCG and also Tino coming back, and some more stability in the backs. They were missing plenty, and you saw Beaufort Moore move to centre very, very regularly. Keeney's at 1, and they seem to have locked that position down, which is great. So Campbell becomes very, very interesting. Very expensive, though, at 54 average. So, yeah, fun one for sure. DCE, 725 for him, 53.3 is the average last year, and the price reaction just seems fair. The roll reaction, he's older, and he has Luke Brooks with him. An 8 consistency with the 8 confidence. He's definitely done this before and better. Bit of upside there. Decent amount of downside risk, though, for sure. Although, I might have to change that. After I did the analysis, I'm probably going to look to change that a little bit. The 3-game downside risk I have a little bit lower, but he actually scores a little bit less with Turbo on the side, who looks like he'll be fit and firing. But I am expecting more of the same from DCE, given I find it hard to see him go back to the 60s that he's had many a year in the high 50s. So this has been the first year in a while. He hasn't been up there with the high 50s scoring in the 60s, but that was due to the welcome addition of Brooks, Turbo playing more, and obviously his age as well. He actually averages 5 more points without Turbo, for example. So keep that in mind. If he ever happens to miss games, that's when he goes nuts. It was a pretty down season for DC with only 0.6 try assists a game compared to 0.8, but it was more just everything being down across the board a bit. A little bit of a kick, like his kick meters, for example, down 50, which again is a 1.5 per game, and the assists is a couple of points per game. So it's different things like that add up to get him down in the 53 category rather than up near the 60 mark, which he saw in 2023. He went bonkers at the back end of the year, averaging way more than 63.8. So he does have that game still in him, but is there other guys that it could be of more interest that are less in the back end of their career and more in the mid to early parts of their career? So I definitely think you could expect a bit of a bump, especially with the nice draw early on. They've got plenty of games at home and some good stuff going on there, but with Turbo likely to be there, it might be a no. But not the worst pick that some people like, he's just washed, but I think he'll still be fine probably for one more year. All right, Matt Burton, here we go. Super excited about Matty Boy. Currently in my SC team. Is he going to make my fantasy team? And guys, I still haven't made a squad yet. So trying to get through all the positions so then I have all the details and all the players that I'm interested in front of me. Once I've gone through all the positions as well, I will give you the 43, whatever amount of players it is that I'm actually interested in a video, and we'll do a little bit more of a dive into those guys and to why I'm interested. And then I've got to work out how it fits in my side, basically. So that's going to be super fun once we get there. But let's go through the Burton stats while we're here. So price of the 53, his team's improved. Burton has improved. It was the same for when the team improves, Burton improves. And that was the same for Marnie, Karaz, these types of guys there for sure. He still didn't go over the 0.5 in any attacking stat, which is pretty crazy. You even look at offloads at 0.1, tackle breaks at 1.8. For someone that's a terrific runner of the footy, I think there's room to grow in all of those stats. 0.5 in, I think 0.4, 0.5 in tries, same in assists. Pretty wild how that ended up. It was basically a Hughes type of season without all the attacking numbers. The kick meters, I think, are 30 extra for Burton. Running meters are very similar in over 100 meters mark. So very similar in those two situations there. And it's just those attacking stats. And if the Dogs continue to improve, which I do expect that to happen, then there could be potential for a nice bump next year. Burton has the goals too, which Hughes doesn't. He's very, very durable, only having the one cat 2 in round 26, missing round 27 there. I still don't think we've seen Burton's best as a 6. Next to Sexton, they had that role for majority of last year, and he actually scored better with Sexton there, which is awesome. And I can see more of the same with that combination growing and the team improving as well. If the Dogs don't make the big leap, I probably expect him to sit somewhere at that 54 average again, 53, 54, 55. And if they do have that improvement, then I'm expecting 58 to 60. And so 5 to 7 points of value in a position where it's not too far away from 700k, which is not too bad and could easily be a second halfback in your side. Very, very fun one for sure. And it's Dragons, Titans, and Para, the first 3. So you should actually see the Dogs start better as well, even though we do expect them to, and not to start poor like we have in previous seasons. So go the Doggies, Bo Ryan style. For those that remember the great footy show on a Thursday night. Jamal Fogarty, 705k. He's in a similar situation to Burton. We add more kick meters and we reduce the running meters. That's the big kind of difference for Fogarty. He also has had someone that's a little bit less involved on the attacking side in terms of kicking and whatever else. You will see some kicks from Sexton and a bit of attacking play go through his side for sure, which you saw less of with Fogs. Strange to get a run here and there, but is that going to happen again? Is Strange going to be his partner in crime? He had a 55.3 average taking out that injury game, so a little bit of bump on that. He's in control of this team, as I said. If we see Strange again, I think it's good news. Pending Ethan Strange there demanding more ball as he grows as a footy player. But there's a little bit of chatter that he's going to be at centre, and there's a good chance that Sanders is the guy in at 6, which I'd probably expect closer to the 100 metres or so taking away from Fogarty, which hurts a little bit. But outside of 2021, this is his tied best average too, where he had 55.1 in games without that injury as well, which is the number I'm looking at there, the 55.3. And it's all to do with him being the dominant playmaker, which was the same in that time, and is why he was a good pick to start last season for those that picked him, not me. Came into last season with a bit of a hamstring problem. That's why they kind of rested him a bit, and that's why I ended up not going for him. But he was incredible, kicking 566 metres a game. Doesn't run the footy like the other halves, sitting in the 40s for run meters, which does hurt. Tackle breaks, offloads, tries, all the good stuff. And he relies on his tackling, assists, and goals to go along with those kick meters. So I expect somewhere between the 50 to 55 is likely, without that 60 plus upside, in my opinion, of some of the other gun halves due to the lack of the running and the try scoring. Overall, he's likely better with Strange, but Sanders is the good chance, and we'll speak about Ethan Sanders if that happens to be the role that he ends up getting. Jamal Fogarty, hey, pretty fun one. He was great last year. Can he do it again? He was cheaper though last year. Lockie Galvin, 695k, 51.8 the average last year. It was incredible. The price reaction, crazy to say that it's probably fair. It's fair for how well he played. So he can definitely do that if the team improves, but we have Luai coming over. So it does make it a little bit more difficult, but an 8 consistency and 8 confidence that he gets to this price, or definitely to the price. I'm worried about it going better though. He hasn't done this before. He's a kid. 20% upside risk chance and 40% downside risk. I think that he could easily go under, and that's why I've got him at a 46 to 51 in the first 5 rounds. With Luai, he's going to be having his hands on the ball so much more, and I think there should be more structure than last year. There were plenty of times where Galvin, he'd get the footy, and there'll be nothing really on, and you just kind of run around a bit, get half tackled and throw the offload away and get 4 points. And I feel like that's going to happen less, to be honest with you. The 1.7 offloads per game for a half is pretty wild, especially when you have 0.1 for Matt Burton. But that's why he ended up getting to such a great score, is because he follows these types of stats, and getting away little tackle breaks, and sometimes he wouldn't get too far, but he'd try and make something happen, and that's what the type of fantasy player you want on your side, and is why I think he'll do fairly well this year as well. His tackling and running numbers, they are terrific, and this shouldn't change much, to be honest. Maybe the run meter's just down a touch with Luai getting more footy. But with the team improving around him, it's only a good thing. It's just a dominant half situation, which was split / more him in control last year, which would bring him the slight downtick only overall, which makes complete sense here. Now let's move to the last three guys: Ben Hunt, Mitch Moses, and Dylan Brown. If you haven't seen the information for the private group yet, guys, head down to the description. It's all there. Literally, it's a long read. So thanks so much for those that are in here already. It's pumping, and we're getting 20-man head-to-head comps together with big prizes available for that and overall groups as well. Ben Hunt, 681k, 51's the average, and he hasn't been changed. But Mitch Moses, underneath him, he's almost 20k more expensive and averaged 2.1 less. So that's a tough viewing there for sure. But he does move from the dominant half role, Ben Hunt, to splitting and roll with less kick meters with Adam Reynolds. One thing to note, though, I think, is if Reynolds goes down, which does happen regularly, sadly, then hopefully Hunt is about a 45 price point by that point, and we can look into him a lot more. He had 1.4 assists per game and 490 kick meters. So with those type of stats, he could easily do well with a team that's likely to be better. So I think we just wait till we see Reynolds not in the side, and then could jump on Ben Hunt from that standpoint there. Last two, we've got Mitch Moses, 700k, 48.9 is the average for him. And the price reaction, I think I did this before I knew how expensive he was going to be. But I think now that we definitely know he doesn't have the goals, which is what we just found out, that he's happy enough to give the goals to Lomax, and he got priced up 3 points. It's a pretty yuck combo. So the roll's always great, apart from the goals, but they also were terrible last year. And if we expect some type of improvement this year, then he could easily just go better based on general base stats in kicking. Tackling is hit and miss sometimes, but just the assists and the tries, if that can go up, then it can make up for his lack of goals a bit. But unfortunately, you're going to lose 5 to 7 points in goals for Moses this year based on the last 2 years. And there's all his value gone, unfortunately. So if Lomax were to get injured, very similar to Reynolds and the Hunt situation, then, or over Origin, if he's a bit cheaper, then if he misses out and Cleary's back in, lots of questions. Then we'll come back and chat about it. But I do think without the goals now, he's a 47 to 52 5-round average man. And definitely not a maybe at a price anymore because he hasn't got the goals. Definitely some upside because he can go 70s and 80s, but plenty of downside too. And then to finish things off with Dylan Brown there at 651. Let's just quickly get into it. He's 5 points better without Moses in 2023. Last year he was 13 points better without him, and we're expecting Moses to be fit and firing for round one. He only had the 40 average in with him last year, which is pretty wild. So the team is likely to improve, but I don't think likely enough to see Brown go 50 plus with Moses there in hand. So Brown has to go 50 plus for you to be interested in him, but I see him as a 45 to 50 with a decent amount of downside risk and a little bit of upside. So not too much there. And we'll leave it there, guys. As I said, if you consider joining the private group, it's an awesome community. All my rankings are going to be in there. My strategy, my team stuff is going to be in there. You'll see who I pick before the Vegas games, but only the Vegas players. So if you want to be interested in my side, I'm updating it weekly, starting at the end of this week once I do my first iteration of the squad that I want. So thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for listening. You're all legends. Make sure you do hit the notification bell and subscribe and follow on podcast and YouTube. See you guys.